The most common causes of husbands' deaths are chronic or terminal diseases, or what are often referred to as natural causes or dying of old age. In most of these kind of deaths, there is some notice before the husband's death, often months in advance and even years in advance. And as is true of many things in the world, there are both blessings and curses when you become a primary caretaker of your husband. Consider these statistics. First, husbands are typically older than their wives. Second, women live on average about 5 years longer than men. Third, not surprisingly, there are roughly 3 times as many widows as widowers in the United States today as I speak. This explains why there are many wives actively taking care of their infirmed husbands for months and years before their husband dies. If you were one of those caretaking wives, then you can certainly relate to how that role is often physically and emotionally exhausting. It's confining and sometimes underappreciated. Potential blessings of being a caretaker include having time to put things in order before your husband's death. Sometimes financial and estate matters can be brought up to date, and funeral arrangements can be prepared, and intimate couple conversations can take place before the inevitable occurs. There's a good chance to say goodbye and say everything that needs to be said. The downside of being a caretaker includes the physical, emotional, and mental strain that's involved, confusing and conflicting emotions that may occur both before and after your husband's death, and the cumulative trauma of watching your once vibrant husband become a mere shadow of himself. As a widow, it's important that you have a setting and opportunity to process both the blessings and curses of your caretaking role. Ideally, you might be able to work with a grief coach or a therapist. Professional help is especially important if you are experiencing carryover traumatic symptoms, thoughts of not being good enough, and guilt for times you weren't the perfect caregiver. I remember my late wife's decline due to cancer, especially the last few months of her ability to do anything for herself declined almost daily. As her pain would spike, as she would periodically slip into a very confused mental state, and sometimes chastise me for not doing or being enough. I remember the conflict of deeply grieving her death and simultaneously feeling relief that I no longer needed to be vigilant 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I remember struggling with intrusive thoughts of not being a good enough caretaker and fighting off intrusive images of her emaciated and sore-ridden body. I often flash back to the helplessness and fear I faced when unexpected challenges arose in the middle of the night and I was the only other person there. Thankfully, I was able to process all this via EMDR therapy along with the healing methods we developed. I am no longer a victim of the traumatic splinters caretaking left in my brain. If you relate to my experience, your best course might be finding a therapist who is certified in EMDR therapy. You can look it up on YouTube and see what it's all about. It will almost certainly be a worthwhile investment. If you feel you need help with your grief, please consider our unique widow retreats. They not only provide community, but also provide a safe place to process your grief and all the emotions related to your husband's death. Our favorite thing to do is to help widows heal and have hope again because we remember that journey all too well. We've been there. Thank you for watching.